Hello, this is Solar PV TV once again from the Laudi SNEC 2017. I think the largest but also the loudest exhibition in the world. So our topic today is just very easy, yes? How to reach 100% of renewables, is it achievable and when in Asia? So yesterday when driving in taxi with Hans-Josef, we were discussing, what should be the messages actually when we speak with people, yes? With politicians, but also with the society. And we were speaking about this 100% goal. And I can tell you, I'm in solar industry since 14 years, but yesterday Hans surprised me because there are already 50 countries which set up the goal 100% of renewables. So even me, I mean solar advocate since 14 years, I didn't know that, yeah? So it's so interesting. So I would like to ask first, Hans, I'm sure you believe in 100% in Asia, but I would like to ask you why. And could you make a short intro?
The goal of 100% renewables is clear why we should achieve it. We have tremendous problems in climate warming. We have air pollution. We have, and we see the conflicts and the war over oil. Many challenges for the world. We must find solutions. Renewables are the solutions. We cannot fight and make wars over solar radiation and wind. We have clean energy and it is zero emission, so the best option to save the climate. That's one point. The political will, the necessity in the world leads to renewables and to cancel the conventional energies. The second point is renewables are now in an industry level that they are the cheapest option in the world in new investment in energy system. Solar and wind had a highly decrease in investment and financing that they are now the best option. Solar and wind has a need to be balanced. We have fluctuations. Now the battery prices are falling with great investment. The mix of solar and wind and hydro, geothermal, bioenergy can balance it. So we see now, and we have new scientific reports, Energy Watch Group is working on such reports, and we had already a result from Antah University in Finland, with simulating Northeast Asia, China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, to how to come to 100% renewable system. And this simulation shows it is possible on a technology and on an economic view, and it is the cheapest option. The investment into solar, wind, batteries, hydro, into hydro pump power station, power to gas, into bioenergy and else, into distribution with grid, supergrids, and with small devices decentralized in the rural areas. Both is important. The investment needs a return of investment of about 6 till 7 euro cent per kilowatt hour. It is the cheapest option in energy sector, and we can see this is the only money what we have to spend. In nuclear, we have to finance also nuclear waste, security system. In fossil, we have to finance the diseases of the people with air pollution and others. We have a lot of external costs, and they are completely avoided with renewable energies. So under the sum, for the society, for the whole budget of the economy in a country like in China, like in Mongolia, like in Japan, like in Germany, everywhere in the world, the same figure. Renewables is the cheapest option when you compare it with all financing what you need, external costs and investment costs. And therefore I believe renewables will come faster. And the last point is the conventional energies have lost the game. We see a falling price astonishing for many, as well as for me. 3 years ago, I did not await it, then oil price will decline so fast. But now it happens. And it is a threat for the conventional energy companies, for the oil companies, because they cannot earn enough investment money for new drillings, for new refinancing their gas production, oil pipelines, gas pipelines. Finance industry goes out more and more. We have a divestment movement in the world where more and more finance companies decide for themselves no investment in fossil and nuclear. 3.4 trillion US dollar divested already in 2015. I have not yet the number for 2016, perhaps Bloomberg have it. So it is growing very fast, and there are 2 points behind the decisions of the finance manager. First is they want to save the planet, and the second is they see no return of investment in fossil and nuclear. Look to Toshiba. A big company is now nearly bankrupt because of nuclear investment. Westinghouse, the daughter of Toshiba, is in bankrupt already. So this row is very fast. The biggest company, oil company of the world, Peabody Energy in USA, last year it went to bankrupt. They overlooked that they have not enough return of investment. So this both situations, falling prices and huge investment into renewables and more threats in fossil and nuclear sector leads that we have a tremendous fast switch to 100% renewables. All nations like China, who knows this and sees this, are on the winner side. All nations like Russia and others who do not see this development, they are on the loser sides. So economy on the whole is mostly driven by energy, and therefore it is necessary for everyone to see the new development. 100% renewables will come. The nations who come too late will become the loser of the coming economy.
So thank you so much, Hans. We started with the father of renewable energies, who is one of our leaders in World Solar and Cleantech Influencers Forum. And the vision of the father will be introduced by the children, I would say, of the solar industry, so by us. So let's start first maybe with Jenny Chase, the only woman in our discussion, but very influential woman, because this woman is shaping the public opinion around the globe through the Bloomberg New Energy Finance. But also I have to admit that Jenny is one of the best knowers of solar market in the world. Jenny, from your perspective and also discussions within the Bloomberg team, when we reach the 100% of renewables in Asia, are you considering that, or it's still, let's say, under the dream?
So, first of all, I agree with Hans-Josef. It is entirely possible to reach 100% renewables all around the world. I don't think anyone from the solar industry should be mocking other industries for going bankrupt. I don't think anyone from the solar industry should be mocking other industries for going bankrupt, because solar companies go bankrupt all the time. And what I'd like to add to what Hans-Josef said about it being possible to achieve 100% renewables is, first, it will take time. This is an infrastructure investment. And secondly, it's absolutely true that renewable is cheap, but it's not simply integrating renewables into the grid isn't just a case of sticking some batteries in. It's also got to be a case of reforming the whole power structure so that power is cheaper between about 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. when solar power's free, the sun's out, power's free. We've got to get power demand shifted to that time to start integrating substantial amounts of solar, and that probably means implementing power markets, merchant power markets, which currently no country in Asia really has, and starting to look at how to make people shift demand to the times when renewables are generating. And then with a mix of renewables, a little bit of flexible fossil fuel capacity, so maybe open cycle gas turbines, diesel generation as a stopgap, we can probably get, technically there's no reason why we shouldn't get to 90% renewables by 2050. And that last 10% will be hard, but it's probably possible.
So thank you so much, Jenny. We have discotheque around here. I hope that it's not, like destroying our sound. I would like to now maybe ask Alexis, because Alexis is working very closely with the royal family of Malaysia. And he's also a guy, coming from Latin America, who knows a bit the side of emerging markets from other side, but now he's very closely working on these Asian markets here in the region. And how do you feel, Alexis, when you are traveling and speaking to the governments, to the royal families within the region? How do they consider, renewable energies, and especially solar? And do they consider in their strategies, that one day their companies will need to be like, 100% involved in the solar and clean technology business?
Thomas, thank you. I want to say first that I agree with Hans, with Jenny. What is going on in Southeast Asia, that probably it will be an advantage. Not being very well developed allow you to leapfrog a generation in technology. So in Southeast Asia, you have countries that they need to create practically infrastructure from scratch. So when you're considering that, you have to balance the current cost of renewables against the traditional way of fossil fuels. So if you're starting to do that now, it makes much more sense to gear towards renewables. So in undeveloped countries, it's probably, in a way, an easier option. In a well-developed countries, there is a basic thing, two concerns. One, massive investment in fossil fuels, political agenda related to that. So this investment, it would take time because everybody wants to protect their own money. And heavy money have been in investment in the energy model so far. I believe that in Asia, 100% combining, probably we were not saying, but personally I consider that the main challenge here is that we are all waiting for storage to be the real solution to become a very mature.
This is the job.
That is Tom.
The guy
I know, Tom. I don't want to steal you any line here, but personally I consider that in 3-4 years, the real game changer will be that when we can close the cycle and we have a 24 hours, no intermittency there, and that will be when most of the countries will jump on it. In Asia, probably will be easier in a way because the lack of infrastructure, and the main problem here is that you deal with a short-time political agenda. There are so urgent matters on the table that renewables are a priority and are not a priority. For people, are a priority, but for many, the politicals are not as it should. So that's why we're seeing here that they keep saying things that they never, they go to COP21, they go back and they sign new coal plants, gas plants, and practically not a lot of renewables. They need a lot of help on knowledge. It's not very easy for them to access the proper knowledge to structure a proper renewable policy and a proper renewable infrastructure, because it's quite complex actually, and they really need true professionals assessing them on how to structure this, and definitely changing the political agenda, not so much in the short term, more thinking about the middle and long term. One thing that probably for ending that I always said to the politicians when I met with them is that I'm very disappointed with people above 40 because they really don't believe in this, and it's very difficult to change their mind. So my idea is not to change their mind. I always tell them, think about your kids. I'm not talking to you because I know that it's hard. Many of them, they really, in the end, it's very difficult to convince. But when you think about your kids, that's a different thing, because you're giving them a world that is completely unfair, because your lack of action is creating a sentence to all of them. So the next generation will suffer our negligence and our lack of action. So probably I try to go through the emotional side, because the rational side is not very easy on this area with the politicians. And probably that will be it. I will summarize on that.
So maybe as we are speaking about the political agenda, actually, I would like to ask Kerry Adler, who is founder of SkyPower Global, one of the largest worldwide developers, and recently very successful in India with big projects. And Kerry is speaking with a lot of high-level politicians. And how do you feel, Kerry? Because I know that you have a great, huge pipeline, but it still takes time, yeah, to really introduce the projects to be built. And how do you feel, you know, this feeling amongst the politicians? And do you feel the change in the minds? And do you think that, you know, that the real kickoff is going to be accelerated?
Well, I think people need to differentiate between a wish, a goal, and an objective. And my experience has been advising heads of states and working very closely with the UN, and as the UN Global Compact's pioneer for climate action at the last meeting held at the Global Compact, I learned some very unique ways that people are looking at renewables. The thing that's most disturbing is, even though it's right from an economic perspective, it's not safe from a political perspective. So there will be some countries where, in fact, you will have the desire and the need and the will to go to 100% renewables, but I think that's a fallacy. You can't wear clothing without petroleum. You can't drink bottled water without using petroleum. So where does it really come to? I think 60 or 70% is achievable. I think it's the teenagers that we know today that will be the leaders when they reach 45, 50, 55 years old, that they will be the ones to take us to that step. But you'll never, ever, in our lifetime, see 100% renewable. It's just the law of economics. And the reason I say that is the political power is not there today to do that. Now, I know, you know, we listen to all the noise like a carnival in here. I can tell you the days in the wind business when it was up and down and they didn't play music. They were either somber or they were celebrating. And that was because it depended on subsidies. Subsidies are gone. From an economic perspective, solar energy is the cheapest form of power generation. If you take the BTUs generated out of a barrel of oil today, and you take the cost, the levelized cost of solar energy on a kilowatt basis with battery power, by 2021, a barrel of oil will not be worth more in the open market than $22. So it's going to take an education process for the producers of oil to recognize that oil is no longer the commodity that they are going to be able to generate capital from. How do you sell a barrel of oil for $45 when you can generate that same amount of power for half that price? So the economics will drive. Unfortunately, the politics will not allow those jobs, and the power of the people who back these political parties, these companies, the voters, do not want to see those jobs go, which is exactly why the US administration is backing coal again, because it does create jobs, it does maintain jobs. Now, at some point, there'll be a point of inflection where people will recognize solar creates more jobs than any other industry in the world, but it's going to take some time. So is it feasible 100%? In some countries, yes. In most countries, no, in our lifetime. But I think that that should not stop us or hinder us from trying to push to 70, 80, or maybe, as you shared, 90%. You don't always have to hit 100. Sometimes it's not achieving the goal, it's how hard you try. And I'm glad to be with all these leaders. And Thomas, it's just fantastic what you've done, because you're opening the eyes to so many people. And at the end of the day, it's not really about making just a profit or changing the type of fuel. It's bringing power to the people. Those people in Africa that have never seen power before. And that's where we're really focusing our energy, is bringing the first power to people as opposed to the replacement power. And that will lead to the growth, and that will lead to this initiative. It's almost like a snowball effect, that over time we will in fact see a growth towards 100% renewable.
So I believe that father of renewables will have to react.
Yeah, thank you. We should be more optimistic, and we can be more optimistic when we look back to the discussion 10 years ago. Look what the projections of the International Energy Agency was in the growth of renewable energies. For example, in 2010, they forecasted for 2015 60 gigawatt photovoltaics on the world market, but we had 240 gigawatt. It grew much faster than every scientist and anyone believed it could happen. And we will see the same in the future. The more the renewables become cheaper, the more the pressure to do anything for climate protection will happen, the faster they will grow. And the task, you are right, is great to fulfill the balancing and others. But we have also options, and the integrated option comes. They are here, and more investment will do it. And it comes even in the regions, what you mentioned, where is no electricity. In this year, 100,000 African small devices were invested, and they brought the first time lights into the huts with solar, not with coal, not with nuclear. They are not able for it. And it even happens that in Africa now they substitute the diesel generators. The people, the rural people have not the money to invest into the diesel for the generators, but they have the money to invest into Mobisol and other companies investing in solar industry. So we have the first movement, and it can increase very fast. It is like we discussed in 2000 in New York, where the horse riders told us combustion engines will never come because we have not so many drivers for a combustion car. 10 years later, New York had only combustion cars in 10 years. It was completely switched. We will see the same. We should be more optimistic and coordinated, and then it comes very fast, like it was in the past.
Alexis.
Kerry, Tommy, a small thing that I would say. Two things that we need to consider. One, it's out of our control, the breakthroughs that can happen in technology. That can change the game completely. We don't know what will happen. And
also, breakthroughs with the business models. Yeah?
Exactly, and the second thing that I think is very, very important, China, sorry, my Spanish is behind, but China is the main game changer here, because I will tell you, probably Kerry, this is important. If China decides tomorrow to go electric cars, and they really want to do that, the good thing in China is that they say, immediate effect, tomorrow we go electric cars, and they do that, and they start doing a lot of factories. Neither of us here, or any consultant, or any doing projections, consider that probably. And China definitely, every time China reacts, they change the game completely. A couple of years ago, modules were $7 bad, now it's 29, going towards 10. China. If tomorrow China decides to open 20 factories in batteries, probably in 7-8 years, we can achieve 100% or 90 or whatever, mainly because the volume China is working, plus any breakthrough in technology, will change completely all our perception of what is going on. So, based on current facts, and I agree in a way with Kerry and with Hans, because Kerry probably tried to be more like down to earth, seeing what he's perceiving. Hans is more a believer, and so I want to mix in the middle in a way that, and I think that we need to consider that China has a key role to play here. And the new technologies with new minds, most of the universities in the world are investing heavy money in new technologies that once they go mainstream, this story can end much, this story can be much quicker for all of us.
Kerry, would like to react, yes?
I feel like the bad son who's speaking out against his dad. But I will say that you're right about China. But that's because China's government has the political means to affect change. This is all psychology. And if you think about it, if you set the bar too high, some people just feel it's unachievable. And I'm trying to be more cautiously optimistic, and I'm also trying to balance that, let's face it, solar panels aren't going to zero. But you are right. We're in an evolutionary period in solar. There will be a point where something revolutionary will happen. Could be in a week, could be in 6 months, it could be in 4 years. And that will be the differentiator. The only hope we have to ever achieve 100%, in my view, is pure economics. Because politicians cannot fight economics, because people will not pay the taxes that they should to have dirty burning fuel. So it is, I think it's wise and prudent to be very optimistic, but I also believe it's sage, and as Solomon would say, you can't make a decision till you have all the facts. We can't expect politicians to make these decisions. If you were at COP21 or participate in any of the events in Paris, they could not all sit in a room and come to a conclusion on what a carbon tax is. So I think we have to lead by example, but I think we set the bar at something that they can achieve, and we stand a better chance of actually helping them achieve it, as opposed to dreaming about it. But it's a nice dream.
Maybe, Tom, before I give you the floor, so I would like to thank you for invitation on Monday. So with our Solar Future Today delegation, we attended the launch of 2 awesome electric SUVs by BYD. We saw also the new one, Dynasty. And I hope in the future I will be driving this car. I was driving the hybrid car, electric car, and it was really awesome. And this one I imagine even will be better. And what is interesting that, Tom, you work for one of the visionaries, yes? Even not like from the government, but the private person, visionary, who had a dream to make the world 100% clean, Wan Chuanfu. And we saw Wan Chuanfu on Monday. And it was really like, great moment, because this vision is becoming, the reality.
Actually, so we share the same vision as Hans, on the 100% renewable targets, right? This is definitely of our BYD dream as well. Of course, we also fully understand the concern from Kerry, right? Economically, really is achievable now, right? Because as a project, investment developer, right? So is it really possible, to reach the 100% of the renewable, right? To be honest, we are actually thinking about this one very hard. It's because we do need to really find out what is the current constraint, which is, preventing us to achieve 100%. For example, like in Asia, right, the different countries have a different level of development, right? China, Japan, Korea, and the other, countries in the South Asia, and also even in the South Asia, right? India, Pakistan. So they all have a different level of development. And however, the key thing is with the increased content of the renewable energy, right? Right? Renewable energy is now stable source, right? Wind and solar, right? So the grid networks is now able to tackle that high percentage of the renewable, right? So that means the overall networks in the country has to be upgraded to cope that. For example, like India, right? They come out about 200 gigawatt renewable, right? The solar, right? And wind, right? The key thing is, do they really have that strong enough, national grid, right? To transmit all this power to everywhere in the country? This is something that is a big question. So that's why, we think for political side, the government should be really consider about, to encourage, we call the decentralized renewable energy power, solution, which is trying to minimize, the transmission job, right? To get the power generated locally and consumed locally. Every kilowatt-hour price we pay is covering, the generation cost, transmission cost, right? The key thing is, no matter how cheap now solar, right, price in the market, it is already, even lower than the thermal power, right? But it is really help to reduce the cost? No, because the kilowatt-hour cost also composed by the transmission cost and also the cost for the utility to try to regulate or balance all this kind of turbulence, right? So that's why we need to really make out solution that make the renewable energy with very stable outputs, so that it's welcomed by the grid, and also good quality energy to the society. But however, the other concern is that the cost will be increased. To be honest, it's not true. It's not true. You know why? Because the solar cost in the market, latest auction already giving about 3 cents below per kilowatt hour, right? 3 cents. My God, it's very cheap. Okay. And also, putting the storage together. We are doing the storage in large volume. We know the cost, right? Storage about 6 cents per watt hour. So 6 cents plus 3 cents means what? 9 cents only. So if you can get the price, electricity price by 9 cents, then this is already affordable, usable by everybody in the society, right? The key thing is there's a lot of the opportunity for the renewable energy power generators that you can use this kind of the power through the storage system, right? To help not only on the baseline power requirement, but also for the utility regulation program. So this one open up the other opportunity, so to the renewable energy investors, that they can do a lot of job to contribute to the grid, network, power supply. So this is we are looking for very long-term sustainable development, because if you're looking only for the power generation, right, the cost keep drop down not only for the product but also for the PPA price, right? It make the everybody feel very constrained in terms of financing return, right? So that's why we see it is a high potential to achieve higher the percentage of the renewable energy for those Asian countries, right? It's achievable. The key thing is we need to focus on the right strategy, the right solution, and the right technologies, right? And of course, our chairman shared the great vision that achieving not only 100% the renewable energy, right, for the society, but also the 100% of the vehicle has to be electric power, so that it can minimize the emission to the society. To be honest, we actually is also considering to put the battery inside the vehicle, right? It's kind of the renewable energy storage pool. For example, like the city in Shenzhen, right? We are seeing where our headquarters is sitting, right? There are 15,000 electric bus, so 100% changeover to the pure electric bus. So this every bus, carrying 360 kilowatt-hour battery. So 15,000 means what? Means a huge energy storage pool. So all the bus running, in daytime without additional charge, but in the nighttime, it charge fully, right? Overnight charging, right? So this give the local utility a great balance about the power consumption, because every city, right, everywhere in the world, right, there's excess power in the night. So this is we talk about the overall renewable energy solution as a whole. So this can contribute to the minimize the emission from the vehicle, right, to the city, but also increase the overall power efficiency for the society. So this is what we actually are coming from. The reason why we're putting solar, storage, and the vehicle all together is trying to achieve this overall, the target in the future. And this one, I think, not long in the future, definitely with the, the right, business structure putting in place, right, it is achievable to achieve, 100% targets.
So maybe before giving a floor for the comment, I would like to ask also Eren, because Eren is coming from Turkey, yes, and very interesting because he was advising government recently on the 1 gigawatt tender. So it seems to be quite huge, yes, for the country. But also Eren is working with different governments in Asia, Russian-speaking governments, yes? So what is the attitude, and do you think also these countries are thinking seriously about renewables?
Well, first, thanks for this kind of opportunity for gathering us together and express ourselves. Yes, we believe that we can reach 100%. But the question is, we need to reach that target in a sustainable way. So in order to do that, what we believe is that we need to impose the vision equally to each country. It's not just with China, with mass production. It's not just Norway who's going to ban diesel motors in 5 years' time. We need to force each country and educate each country what renewable energy is. So we can use the finance strength from the Gulf region. We can use this Latin America manpower. So regarding the Middle East and especially Turkey, yes, there is a lack of education and training. The governments, they don't know what renewable energy is. They arrange gigawatt tenders, 800 megawatt tenders in Dubai, 1 gigawatt tender in Turkey, and this will continue to up to 6 gigawatts. But the question is that a sustainable way to reach that target? So we see that education, training, and vision, we need to impose this to those regions. Once we reach that target, 100% target is not a dream anymore.
So maybe Jenny, because you wanted to take part in the discussion, yeah? You wanted to comment before.
All I was going to say is that a bit of power market analysis quickly tells you why it's much harder to get to 100% renewables in electricity than to 90%. Because most economies at the moment have some kind of dispatchable, high marginal cost power that only runs occasionally. So open cycle gas turbines or even diesel generators. And that's simply a technical problem. We will solve it eventually, but if we get to 90%, we'll much more easily be able to see how we get to 100% than if we try for 100% and struggle.
I just wanted to say that's so insightful. It reminds me of the Tesla that I used to own, that the battery would never go to 100% after the first day we bought it. I no longer own it. But it is true. It is difficult. It's difficult to go from 30 cents or 29 cents a watt panel to 15 cents. The more you fall, the harder it gets. Whereas going from 60 to 30 is somewhat easier. But if we can get to 90, have we not achieved something fantastic? Isn't that something to be proud of? I'm happy to get 90%.
I have some comments here. Okay, for example, like you're right. Okay, Kerry, solar can only generate power 4 hours a day. What about 20 hours? The people need power maybe mostly in the nighttime, right? And wind, the limitation is wind is considered as the garbage power because it's totally unpredictable, right? So how can we really open up the market for the wind? Because the more wind power migrate to the grid networks, right? The more turbulence will be given to that, right? So this is something that the key concern technically or economically we can solve. Then we can open up the market. Of course, people like Kerry, they need to make money. They developer, they need to make money. The key thing is for them. If they see there's a chance, right, in a higher return on investment, right, then every people will go in and make the project. So the percentage of renewable power energy can be increased regularly. So this is something that we need to focus.
So I think that the father of renewable energies is not happy with his children.
With some I'm happy. It's a wonderful discussion and it is a necessity of the discussion because it's a normal discussion how to advise politicians to come to 100% renewables. Should we less optimistic or more optimistic? That's a really normal and an important discussion. But we should learn from the past in the energy system. Remember what the nuclear researchers and the first nuclear managers advised the governments. They told nuclear will solve all energy problems in the world. Nuclear would regreen the ice shield of Greenland. That was the argument. Completely crazy, but the politicians believed these visions. And they took huge amounts of money from the budgets and created nuclear powers, and then we had the disasters of Fukushima and Chernobyl and as well. But the optimistic of this nuclear family brought the politicians to invest into nuclear. And I see so many not optimistic arguments in the renewable industry. Oh, we cannot achieve 100% renewables fast enough. They don't advise in the same system. And what will happen when the renewable energy themselves tell the politicians, oh, it takes a long time with renewable 100%, we need fossil for power generation for gas turbines. We can take power to gas, we can biogas take for power for gas turbines. We need gas turbines, yes, but we have the renewable options to do it. And when they advise to the politicians, we have the chance, it is the cheapest option, it saves the climate, it makes air pollution to an end, it ends the war of oil, why should they don't do it? Then they come to a new policy, and this means they make an end of the subsidizing of the fossil system. Fossil is 5 times higher subsidized in the world than renewables. That's one point what the politicians have to learn when they want to save their budget. They have not enough money for education in their budget. Why they, Malaysia, for example, they give more subsidizing for fossils than they give for education in the system. And completely crazy. So you must come optimistic to the politicians, then they have a chance to switch. And some did it, more than you believed. Even Thomas was astonished that we have since November 50 nations in the world who have the goal with 100% renewables in 2 or 3 decades. Not anywhere in the next century, in 2 or 3 decades. They have the target. It is countries like Costa Rica, like Uruguay, like Venezuela, no, not Venezuela, not yet, like Denmark, Paraguay, like Denmark, like Sweden, like many others. We have great metropolians like Sydney, like San Francisco, like Vancouver, Barcelona, Genf, Munich, Frankfurt. They all have the political target 100% renewables. It is not a crazy vision. It is a mainstream in the world to do it. And therefore, I can advise the industry only, go to the politicians, say them, we have the solution for all things, and then you will get it from the politician.
So, Alexis first and Kerry, the worst son today.
Yes. Kerry is the naughty boy with a no, but one thing that is very, very important, how we achieve this. There is a key factor. We need to work all together. The key with renewables is the sun is hitting all day long the earth. So what we really need to do in the future is we need to start interconnecting the grid. We need only one grid. The world needs to think this is only one grid, not each country running his own show. We need to interconnect Southeast Asia with North Asia, America. Once you start connecting all of them, you start moving an intermittency. So the sun will always, if it's not here, will be there. So you need a lot of money and infrastructure to do that. But that is a key discussion. What's the problem here? A lot of countries, they need to discuss among themselves how we connect all of us, how we start sharing energy. That will be something that definitely will make the difference. The second thing that I think that is quite stupid on all of us is that we think that we have time. That's the more ridiculous discussion. You know, we keep talking, and I've been here 10 years, and we don't have time. Tell me, last time you have seen in Shanghai a blue sky with the sun shining? Never. I have never seen here a blue sky with the sun. Malaysia, I remember someone told me, Alex, I joined Renewables because my son saw a picture 30 years ago, and he said, Dad, what happened with the sky? I never saw a sky like this. Why? All over the world, we're getting used to live in a darker area more and more. So we don't have time, and that's my main concern. We think we have, and we don't. And we need to start doing, probably what Kerry is right is that, and Hans is right, we need to put in the shoes on the other side, not in our shoes. We know our targets and we know what we want, but we talk to people that, yeah, they listen with attention, but they don't do anything. So you need to somehow find a middle way that they start doing at least something and start building from there.
So maybe Kerry, but just small comment, yeah, because as you know, World Solar and Cleantech Technology Forum, Solar Future Today, the main goal is really to make a transition with a win-win, you know, for all the players, also fossil industry, also for politicians, for the society, and bring this awareness. So we need to start really bringing awareness to the influencers first, I think.
Yeah, I just want to respond to what you had shared. I think that I've never met a politician that keeps that promise of something so huge. They try, and they have good intentions. And I think in most countries in the world, politicians are limited to 2 terms, perhaps with maybe the exception of Turkey under this new government regime. But it's easy for a government leader today to say by 2050 we're going to be 100% renewable, because they're not going to be held accountable if that's not achieved. But look, I think the way to look at it is it's simple. Renewable is a big part of the generation mix. We cannot alienate these other forms of fuel. We cannot alienate the governments by asking them to make hard decisions to stop immediately or even in a very short abridged period of time like India. India could not stop its coal because it has so many people employed. It's going to take a period of time. I think you have to recognize that we may not get to 100% renewables before we find a way to strip mine the moon and bring helium-3. There are evolutionary changes. I think setting a realistic target and communicating that to the government leaders is the responsibility of people in this industry. And if they get to 50 and they get to 60, then they're going to recognize that it's going to be easier to get to 70, 80, or 90. But if we go out saying it has to be 100%, not only do we alienate all the other operators and generators of power who want to go renewable to some extent, but don't want to see their balance sheets decimated overnight. It's a process and a journey. And I think we just need to be realistic of what we can achieve.
One more comment from Hans.
You can influence the process. That's a point, with a good argument. The coal employment is the best argument for the coal industry to save their business, but not for the industry for solar. It happened in Germany. We have 40,000 coal employment. And the coal industry fight it against solar industry with the argument we must save the coal employment. The solar industry did not fight for themselves, and they lost 70,000 employment without a discussion. So that's the point. You must make a clear vision. You must say clear arguments to the politicians for your business and not for the coal business. I cannot understand why the solar manager brings arguments for the coal business. You must fight for your employment and not for the coal employment. They all will get new employment in the solar industry, in the wind industry, and we had it in Germany. We had it in the eastern Germany with the new factories from Q-Cells, from First Solar, from many other companies. All are gone, they are lost because of the discussion, we must save the coal industry. Crazy. I cannot understand this discussion.
But you know, it's so great actually, our discussion, because normally, like, you know, we are, let's say, solar and clean tech influencers. We should have like discussion. We like it, we agree, we just would like to promote. But even within us, yes, we are not yet fixed. What is our vision and what is our message? So maybe within Solar Future Today, first we should discuss internally what is our one message that we should, you know, transfer to the politicians and also to other communities. How do you think, guys?
Yeah, the message is we must back from the politicians best regulations for the investors into renewable energies. That's the point. The money must flow to climate protection and not to climate pollution. And the instruments are clear. Best instruments is direct supporting the investors that they can get a return of investment. Feed-in tariff is the best instrument and the best possibility for it. We have a discussion now between feed-in tariff and auction. Auction is better than nothing. In great and big investment with 100 megawatt, it is okay. But not in the small devices. We must fight for feed-in tariff in the small and medium devices, in the rural areas and everywhere in the countries. The second point is take away, cancel the subsidizing for fossil and nuclear. Why do we spend public money for polluting the world? There is a highly polluted world, and we give money. Every ton of CO2 emission is subsidized by $100 public money. We have to cancel it. Immediately would be renewables completely competitive. And the third point is, let's pay the polluters the damage what they cause. Air pollution and others. This could be a CO2 tax or anything else. That's a 3-point on financing industry, what the politicians have to create.
Okay, Jenny.
I would agree. So my advice for politicians would be, cheap renewables is coming, whether you support it or not. Your job is to prepare your power grid, prepare your power markets to use that renewable energy effectively. And that probably means implementing a power market to reward generators to reward demand response and reward people who build renewables where it's useful. And I would also agree with Hans-Josef, at least that direct subsidies to fossil fuels should be phased out.
Okay, so because I think that we could still discuss at least 1-2 hours about the topic. And it was great, yeah, that we noticed that even within us, we have so different opinions, yeah? And imagine how to transfer these opinions to the politicians. Yes? So I propose, like, you know, the final thing, let's make some voting. Let's make us the politicians. So who believes that before 2040, we reach 100% of renewables? Before 2040? Worldwide. Who believes? 1, 2, 3, 5. 5. Who believes before 2050? Who believes 2100? Okay, so you lost. So like in democracy, unfortunately, our colleagues Jenny and Kerry lost. So most probably we'll reach 100% before 2040. So thank you so much. It was a really interesting discussion. To be continued on different continents. So it was Solar PV TV from SNEC 2017 with a lot of noise around, a lot of music around, and with very distinguished guests, with Jenny Chase from Bloomberg New Energy Finance, with Hans-Josef Fell, the father of renewable energy law, and also, I would say, the industry in the world, and with the father's children who are bringing, you know, this dream into reality, with Tom Zhao from BYD, with Kerry Adler from SkyPower Global, with Eren from Icarus, and with Alexis Issaharoff, advisor of the royal family in Malaysia. Thank you so much. 100% in Asia is coming.